This Liberty Sports Update is brought to you by Beacon Credit Union.
Yeah, it was a big week for us. Truthfully, we tried to cost our football team 2 games earlier on in the year. Between obviously the FIU game is one we'd all like to forget, and even last week with 4 penalties against North Alabama, that's not acceptable. That's not why I came here. I think I was hired for this job to help us try to win football games, not just prevent us from losing them. So we kind of took that as a special teams deal. You guys hear me talk about it all the time as Code Red. Be prepared, play hard, maximum speed, and finish. That's kind of what we're built on. That's kind of our mentality week in and week out, and we weren't doing that earlier in the year. Obviously, to get that monkey off our back, so to speak, last week was a good deal, and I'm just proud for the kids. They bought into the plan. ULM had struggled a little bit on their punt coverage, and our plan was, I told them all week, was let's figure it out if they fixed it or not. We weren't going to not rush them after they had got some punts blocked earlier in the year, so we wanted to find out if they could, protect us, and, the kids executed what we asked them to do well and played hard.
All right, good stuff, Coach. Appreciate it. We'll go to John Manson first, and we'll see you, Brett.
Hey, Coach. I got a couple questions about Trayon Sibley. I'll ask one, let you answer, and then jump in after that. Coach Freeze mentioned on Saturday after the game that he was a guy that was kind of relegated to second or third team, special teams, and kind of taking off those units until he proved that, he deserved to be out there. What did you guys see out of him? I think it was leading into the North Alabama game where he got back on the units that, you got trust in him again to give him that opportunity.
Yeah, Trayon has a unique skill set that a lot of guys on our team don't have, as far as the size and speed factor. We've got some little guys who are fast and some big guys who will run hard. But, he's one of the few guys that has both of those things in combined. Losing a guy like Caleb Coleman hurts us. He was one of those guys for us last year. But Trayon, he's young. Okay, I'll start by saying that. He's just a redshirt freshman. So sometimes, during fall camp and stuff, we'd be working drills and he would kind of do his own deal. And then truthfully after the FIU game, I got to give Coach Harris a shout out. We didn't have a good game. We gave up a bunch of big returns. Our first kickoff return for a touchdown since we've been here. So by no means do I have any of the answers or all the answers. And Coach Harris said, what about a guy like Trayon? So Monday. That was our on day that week. He came in and I said, Trayon, this is the deal. This is why you haven't played on special teams. And we showed him some clips of why. And I said, now you could be the best special teamer we have if you play to your ability, use the speed you have, use the attributes, the strength you have, and it'll help this football team. And if you buy into it, that's the big thing. With guys coming in, especially young guys, they want to be the wide out or they want to be the running back or whatever the case may be. And if they're not that, they could have let it affect other aspects of their game. Not saying that Trayon did that, but we met on that Monday morning. I showed him the plan. I showed him, you're going to start with the twos, and if you make some plays this week during practice, you're going to start. And he kind of is. I know that week he started on kickoff. This week he started on kickoff and punt return, which I'm glad I put him on that as well. And his role will continue to develop. And obviously he had a heck of a game. Not many guys have ever blocked a punt and scored a touchdown in the same game. So it was a good job for him. I'm proud for him. Had big tackles on kickoff too. So he was by far our special teams player of the week for sure.
And you mentioned, some of the plays he made. Have you ever been around a guy that made that many plays in one game on special teams, from blocking a kick that ended up to a touchdown, following another ball in the end zone for a touchdown, key blocks on the perimeter, free Douglas, your tackles, et cetera, et cetera? I
don't think so. I may have seen some, but I've never been a part of it myself. Like last year, I think it was against Hampton. We had 3 touchdowns. Shadro had 2 of them. They got called back, but, to be able to do it not just one aspect, but almost every aspect of the kicking game yesterday was awesome. The first thing we showed this morning was him blocking the punt, falling on it for a touchdown, and then the very next play he runs down the kickoff. They try to run a field return. He keys butt side, trims the fat, exactly what we had talked about doing all week, and goes and makes the play. A lot of guys would still be celebrating what they just scored. He didn't want to come off the kickoff unit. He was wanting to go back down there and make a play, and he did that. I'm real proud of him, how he's grown up and how his roles are going to increase him even more so.
All right, let's go to Damian Sordelett from the Lynchburg News in Advance.
Tanner, DJ Stubbs had been primarily the punt returner the past few years, and we've seen DeMario handle all the punts this year. What allowed you to put him back there? And we saw with the punt return for a touchdown this past week, but just those yards that he's able to get on some punt returns and not allowing those and we haven't seen him allow a punt this year to get behind him and be pinned back inside the 10 or 5-yard line.
Truthfully, it was last year. He redshirted and he was a scout punt returner. And we struggled tackling him a little bit. He was always back there with Stubbs. All those guys are always back there. And, you watch them play wide out and we watch them go do one-on-ones. I helped coach Platoon and, with our defensive guys and coaching those safeties. And you watch him one-on-ones and he's a tough cover. He makes guys miss all the time, every day. So, that's the first thing you look for. One is courage, to field it, not just fair catch them all, and then be able to, there's going to be somebody free on almost every punt return. You're going to have to make somebody miss and make a play on your own and create on your own. And, Stubbs has done that. He did a great job for us last year. I feel comfortable with him back there as well. But right now I feel like Mario gives us the best chance to get those explosives. I don't know where we rank in stats-wise, but I'm sure we're up there pretty high. But he's done a great job and, fielding footballs, not letting them hit. That's the biggest underrated aspect of being a returner is, sometimes a good play is making a fair catch and not letting the ball hit and get that extra 15 to 20 yards. So, that's our goal is we want to field all footballs, whether we return them all or, just keep them from rolling and losing hidden yards in the field position is a huge deal, and DeMario's done a great job for that.
Coach, I've got one. Just looking at personnel and in general on special teams, I mean, Coach Freeze mentioned it earlier, trying to get your best athletes out there. Where's that balance of asking guys to do too much, from their roles, be it on offense or defense, but still getting them out there on special teams and maximizing their potential?
Yes, sir. There's always a fine line. I think this year more so than ever, with the COVID stuff. And, I think, my dad actually sent me a deal and said, I think there's more special teams touchdowns at this point than there was through 10 weeks of last year's season. A little article I read, I don't know if it's true or not, but it sounds right. I think, with everything getting cut down, usually the first thing that gets cut is just by nature is special teams. Offense, defense gets the priority the most time in special teams. So I think you're seeing that week in and week out on Saturdays show up. But as far as guys being able to play, everybody's depth's different. Like right now we're thin at linebacker, with some guys grad transferring, some guys getting banged up. So, I'd love to use Aaron Pierre and Anthony Butler on every unit, but that's not what's best for our football team, so there's a fine line. How I've always done it, not that it's right, is punt's the priority. I'm going to have the most defense. If I can only have a starter on one unit, it's going to be punt team. That's the quickest way to win or lose a football game is getting a punt blocked. So those guys will always have the priority, punt guys, and then next would be kickoff. Those are, how we kind of saw FIU, we had, I think on FIU, we had 10 first-year players or true freshmen on our kickoff team. And, it worked for us against Western Kentucky, but it didn't work for us against FIU. So just being that balance of, it was a good learning moment for me. Just because we did it last year and had success doesn't mean it'll work this year. It's a different team. I know Coach Simons, I saw him walking out of here, talked about, we played Syracuse last year, but we have 9 new defensive starters. It's a new team for us, so it was a good coaching moment for me. Is just because something worked last year doesn't mean it worked for these kids, so I had to do a better job of putting these guys in the best situation to succeed, and that's 100% on me. But I think, to answer your question, you'd want to have them all. I don't think there's to be a special teams coordinator in the country saying, I only need you for one unit. I like to use all the starters on every unit. And most teams that you see who are really good on special teams play a lot of starters. Alabama's notorious for it. Guys with more depth, you're able to do so. But right now we just got to make what works what we have. And the biggest thing about it, no matter who you have out there, is they have to take pride in their work. We make the joke about it often in our rooms. Is no one tells their mom, what do you play? I play the R5 on kickoff. I started R5. Or I play the left tackle. What do you mean you play left tackle? You're a receiver, but we got to take our guys, whoever's the 11 out there, you got to take pride in your work and let it show on Saturday, and whatever your role is, make the most of it.
Thanks, Coach. Let's go to John again from CF Red.
I don't think we've talked since Alex was named starting kicker. He's had a little bit of up and down through the first 4 games, missing some kicks, but he did make 2 on Saturday, including a 42-yarder. What has been your thoughts about him so far through this season, and what's your message to him moving forward?
I expected there to be some growing pains. I mean, the guy hasn't played in a college football or a football game period since he was a senior in high school. He played in some later games. He kicked off later when his time at Penn State. But, if you do anything and you stop doing it for 3 years, it's going to take some time to get back into it. There was a point, I know, we all want him to make all of his field goals on Saturdays. I do. Nobody does more than Alex Barbier, I promise you. There was a point in practice he had made 34 straight field goals, consistent. So, it's one of those things where we know he could do it. It'd be one thing if I knew I didn't have a very good kicker and, coach, we better go for it. But he made 34 field goals in practice, which is hard to do. It's not like they were all PATs. We move them all over the place, deep, short, right hash, left hash, middle of the field. He's done a great job. He got one blocked, which is on me, against Western Kentucky that was going to be in. And then he missed one off the post against North Alabama that was a good hit. He just, he's got to lock in to do his steps. But his routine, his rhythm, his steps have been very consistent. I'm happy for him that, he built on making 2 field goals last week. And hopefully he's got those jitters out of his way now. And he's confident and, that I'll get him protected. And Coach Sam Gregg and, the rest of the staff get those guys protected on field goals so he just worry about making the ball go through the uprights.
Let's go back to Damian.
Coach, have you noticed more teams trying to kick away from Shadro for kickoffs, and is that frustrating that he's not getting the consistent opportunities to try to return one of those?
Yes, we expected it, and we always had a plan for it. But truthfully, last week was the first team that we played that we knew where they were kicking it. Western Kentucky had played one game, and they did opposite of what they did the year before. Obviously, we were FIU's first game, so we didn't know where they were going to kick it. North Alabama, Sky kicked it to, Monday fielded one last week. So teams are going to, they're smart. They've done their homework. He's a dynamic player. But when we do get our opportunities, we've got to make them pay for it. And if a team decides to kick it, we have a not my man mentality on kickoff return. It's always been the standard around here. My man's not going to make the play. I don't care who I'm blocking, where I'm blocking them to. We got to have a not my man mentality. And last week they kicked it to us twice and we didn't make them pay for it. And we got to, whether that be personnel, my call, the second call I called a field return against a short kick. That's a bad call. You can't do that. It's too hard to get over there against a short kick. But when we have our chances, if teams are going to kick it to them, we got to make them pay for doing so. And we look forward to kind of getting some momentum back on that unit. Shadro, I hate it for him because, I think a couple weeks ago someone sent it to me. He was an active leading returner. I don't know if he still is in college football that was returning. And he's dynamic back there, and it's my job to get the right calls and to let him go be special like he was in the past.
Coach, I got one more. Alex able to put some balls in the end zone this week on kickoffs. Is there anything that he did to improve on that, or is it just kicking the ball a little bit harder?
Well, I think there was a little bit more wind, but no. The first 3 weeks of the season we were left deep left, and last week we were right deep right. We're always going to have both with us now. We might kick it left deep left one time, right deep deep left. Left deep right, kind of getting these guys mix and matching. Like I said, we're younger on that kickoff unit than we've been in the past, and we're not to where we want to be, where we could just kick the ball in one place and tell them where we're kicking it yet. That's the ultimate goal, but right now we're going to keep people guessing. But I do think, he's more comfortable doing right deep right, but, this week we might be left deep left. He's got to do what we ask, but he's definitely hitting the ball better. I think, once that first field goal came in, he's getting more confident, he's getting more used to it, and just like anything else, he hadn't done it in a while. The last time he kicked off was in high school, and now he's a senior in college. So, just getting that routine of my steps and, hurdling through and all those sort of things is something he's worked on. And obviously we're looking forward to have Stricker back as well.
Just one more from me, actually. Dynamic return man in Johnson for Syracuse. See as big a threat as you've seen this year?
Yes, I think he's the biggest one I've seen in a long time, to be honest with you. I joked last year, I felt like every week we played the top kickoff returner in the country. I think that's how we scheduled our independent teams last year, is just to play the top 25 kickoff return teams. But this guy's as dynamic as he can make you miss in a phone booth. There's a play against North Carolina. There's 2-3 dudes an inch from his face. He splits them, takes it back to the house. I got called back for a block in the back or a blindside block or something, but it had nothing to do with the play. He's as special gets. So we got to do a good job of doing what we can to keep the ball from him, whether that be, kicking it opposite of him on kickoff return or whatever the case may be, we gotta eliminate him from the game because he's as dangerous as there is in the college football right now.